I'm going to debunk several more reptile myths that still drive reptile lovers like me pretty crazy, you guys. So we'll go ahead, jump right into it, you guys, and see what these kind of myths originally where they came from, or better yet, like why do people even bring them up. Now, this is actually kind of a myth that's been ongoing for a while too, and to this myth, it really kind of, I think it's ridiculous in my honest opinion, is that snakes will chase people, and that's obviously right off the bat is not true, you guys. I have never heard of any friends of mine, for that matter, have ever been chased by a snake before, and obviously snakes in the wild, especially where I'm from, you guys. The snakes around here stay pretty small, you guys, and they see us they see us as like titanic, ginormous, like Godzilla predators. And obviously, a snake's first instinct from us seeing us a human being, seeing us as a predator, they actually want to flee immediately. That is their first primary instinct, is to flee. Because obviously, they're afraid that we're going to try and grab them and they think we're going to eat them. So, and then obviously, for some reason, a lot of people say the most common snake that chases people is like either cottonmouths or black racer snakes. And in actuality, I do not believe that whatsoever. So, if you actually were chased by a snake at one point in your life, you guys, I guarantee you that it probably was just an exaggeration from your childhood. Because in reality, I have been seeing tons of snakes in the wild, and not once have I ever been chased by one before. So, actually, 90.9% of the snakes I've encountered in my lifetime, they've all gone the other way from me. So, but anywho though, that is definitely a very common myth that I've heard before. In actuality, yes, snakes will not chase you down. I promise you that for sure, people. Another reptile myth that me and Bagheera find kind of odd, actually. Is it even a myth? Reptiles make good pets for boys, but not meant for girls? Yeah, I've seen both boys and girls obviously having pet reptiles before, so it doesn't surprise me that girls have them. So, but Bagheera and I, we think it just always depends on what people's types and hobbies are. So, right, Bubba? Yeah, I know you like to be curious too. He's always curious about the animals here in my room all the time. Another reptile myth I've heard before is that reptiles usually make good pets for young children. But however though, is that actually true that some of them are good for young children? Let's go ahead and see about that. Sadly, it ain't easy as it sounds, folks. Like all animals that we keep here, you guys, whether if you guys have a cat or a dog or even a little pet bird, you guys, literally all animals require very high maintenance, you guys. I mean, literally, when I got Ariel 5 years ago at that reptile show in Grand Rapids, you guys, when she was little, I knew it was going to be eventually pretty bit of a big task as she got older and bigger. So, and obviously now that we're here at that moment, you know, every time, you know, she needs water, she got a big water dish. That's a big responsibility. And also they require, you know, heat. You know, all reptiles usually require heat. And this girl, you know, she's using a daylight bulb, you guys, that produces temperatures between like low 70s and low 80s out in the outdoors. Kind of a daylight bulb by Zoom Ed, you guys know that. So, and this girl, when she goes to the bathroom, let me tell you, it can be a bit challenging to clean up, especially of how the smell is. But it's actually kind of a good thing though when you clean it up, you guys, because all animals need to have a healthy environment, especially reptiles, whether if you have a leopard gecko or a ball python or even a corn snake as well. They need to have a clean cage, you guys. That is definitely a for certain moment there. So, but so yeah, definitely for young children that are like under the age of 7 or 8, you guys, I don't think a reptile is a good idea for them. But I think maybe a stuffed one would be good. Maybe just a thought. So, nonetheless though, if you do your proper research on these animals over time though, maybe then your time for owning a pet reptile will come. Snakes should be fed 1 to 2 times per year. That's a pretty weird one, everybody. That doesn't seem right, does it? On average, actually, a pet snake should be offered a meal once every other week. But you gotta remember, it depends on the size, age, and also the species as well that you have, you guys. Like, take for example my girl Ariel here, my corn snake. She only gets a meal like every 10-12 days. And when she was a baby, she only got one every 7 days. So, it really depends on the species you're dealing with here. Now, take for example, you guys, like Lucy here, my my garter snake, she only gets a meal like every 8 to 10 days, and her metabolism is pretty good. So, and of course garter snakes, you guys, and corn snakes don't get too big, you guys. But comparing that, then again, let's say you got a Burmese python that's like 15 foot long, it's probably going to want to eat a meal maybe like once or twice a month at most. So, but with that being said though, again, it does depend on age, species, and meal size too. So it's always important to pay attention to that. So if you ever hear somebody telling you that you should feed your snake once or twice a year, do not take that advice. That is a complete big no-no. Reptiles need friends so they can be happy. In real life, to be totally honest with you, most reptiles actually like to be left alone in most cases, because obviously sometimes they don't like to socialize that much. But there are a few species of reptiles in the world, whether if it's snakes or lizards, that actually do socialize, you guys. Because, actually, take for example, my garter snakes that I own, they are probably one of the very few reptiles in the community that you can actually cohabit together, you guys, in groups. So it's actually kind of interesting to hear that. But most snakes usually prefer to be left alone in their own enclosure. But there come to a few rare cases, actually, I guess, where you can cohabit more than one snake together. And garter snakes and water snakes are one of those few species. So, but with lizards, usually most of them want to be left alone. So, but there can be a pair sometimes. Like, take for example, like day geckos, for example. You can actually have a pair of them together in an enclosure, but you have to make sure they are opposite sexes, like one male and one female. Because if you have two males in the same cage together, there's a pretty good chance they're going to try and fight each other pretty good. So you don't want that to happen. So obviously, but overall though, reptiles, 99% of the time, usually prefer to be left alone. Chameleons change color to blend into their surroundings. For a long time, ever since I was a little kid, I always thought about that, actually, if chameleons change color based on their surroundings. But in actuality, I found out just a few years ago that's actually not true. They actually change colors most of the time because of how they communicate to each other, which I actually found that kind of interesting. Almost sounds like Jurassic Park. Are snakes truly evil? A lot of people like to be dramatic a lot once in a while, you guys. And when people hear say sometimes snakes are evil, I know it's for a fact they're dramatic. Even if they deny saying they're not being dramatic, in reality, they actually kind of are. So obviously, snakes are not evil, obviously for one reason. They're just animals, just like many other animals here on our world. I mean, look we got a cat, we have a dog, and I got 6 snakes here in my room, so... And what difference does it make? They're just animals, right? So yeah, there's no reason to say snakes are evil, but other animals aren't. You see what I'm saying? And probably one of the most common snake myths I've heard countless times before in my entire life is some people say snakes are slimy. And I can tell you guys right off the get-go, snakes are not slimy. Not even close. Because if snakes were really slimy, you guys, all of this like cocoa fiber bedding here, you guys, that's dust free, literally so much of it would be stuck right onto Ariel's body here, you guys, if snakes were slimy. And snakes are covered in dried scales, because scales on snakes and other reptiles, it actually provides them protection, you know, kind of like, almost like a coat, you know, or a shield, you know, to protect them from, you know, being poked by sharp objects. So that's why snakes are not slimy, you guys, and they are covered in scales, because they need scales to keep themselves protected pretty good. So if you guys ever hear somebody saying snakes are slimy, obviously, don't bother, you know, correcting them, because they're just gonna try and start an argument or a debate with you.
Well, hello there. What are you doing here on our porch? I don't mean to be rude, but you do realize you're trespassing here. Oh, okay, so you don't have a permit? Well, I guess I'm gonna have to go ahead and call in the bird squad on you.
Another weird snake myth that I've heard only a couple times in my lifetime, but I need to clear the air on this one, is that some people say you can feed your snakes, put your snakes on a vegan diet. And to clear the air on this one right off the bat, all snakes, and I mean all snakes, are carnivores. You cannot convince them to be vegan, you guys. It is completely 100 bullseye% impossible. There's no way you can convince them to be vegan. Even if you tried, it's not gonna work. I guarantee you guys, it's not gonna work. I think tomorrow too, you guys, when I get home from work, I gotta go ahead and probably take a couple of my animals out of my room just for a little bit, because I've noticed lately for the last couple of days, I've noticed some ants crawling on my bedroom floor here. And for some reason, this is the second time that's ever happened in literally since I've lived in this house for over 10 years. Usually, for the last few years though, during the summertime, we've seen a few ants crawling on our bathroom floor, and I think that's because they are looking for water. And around here though, there isn't that much water, except inside my snake's enclosures here. There is water in their bowls. So, obviously that's what they're looking for. Because I gotta go ahead and disinfect this. I gotta go ahead and probably do some infecting around this area here, like where Sprinkle Cheese is at. By the way, that is her official name now, you guys. Her name is Sprinkle Cheese. And I gotta go ahead and do it again by Lucy's cage too. As for these guys here, over here, I'm not too concerned about it. I haven't seen any ants over there. It's mostly just over in this section here, so I probably gotta go ahead and remove Sprinkle Cheese and Lucy out of the room just for a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit of disinfecting here, you guys, and see if that does any effect. And once all that disinfectant dries up, we'll go ahead and bring the animals back into their cages here. So it is gonna be a little bit of work when I get home from work. Well, I should say it's more work when I get home from work. So that should be a lot of fun to do. But anywho though, I really gotta figure out how I gotta stop all these ants from coming into my room. So let me know down in the comments below and tell me which several snake or other reptile myths really bother you the most. Because really, there are several of them that do bother me a lot. But these are the ones that I also wanted to bring up to you guys before. So, and of course, that no matter, I guess, how many times we try to educate as many people as we can, there's always going to still be those few people out there that are going to try and, you know, exaggerate about these creatures, you know. So, in reality, it's always best to give them the truth, you guys, and not try and let these random people exaggerate so much. So, nonetheless, though, just make sure you guys are trying to do it peacefully and respectfully, not trying to, you know, lash out at them or saying, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that, you know, nothing like that. So, nonetheless, absolutely do not do that. Anywho, so let me know, again, what you guys think in the comments below and tell me which myth really does bother you the most. So, and nonetheless, though, that's really all I got to say here, people. So, I'm going to go ahead, grab a quick shower, and then I'm probably going to go ahead and put my kids to bed. Boys and girls, that's going to do it for today's vlog. I promise I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.